Is the screen visible, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. In the last class, we stopped at the analog I/O modules, right? And the last one that we defined was the resolution. Resolution of an analog input channel is the smallest change in the input signal that can be detected by that analog input output module, or it is the smallest change in the input signal that can be sensed by the analog input output module. So such smallest change in the input voltage or current, we are calling it as the resolution. Then we also defined unipolar and bipolar analog voltages. Unipolar means it is only in one direction, say from 0 to plus 5 volts or from 0 to plus 10 volts, like that. Whereas bipolar, it is minus 10 volts to plus 10 volts, right? Or minus 5 volts to plus 5 volts, like that. It is in both the directions. So one is the unipolar, another one is the bipolar. Okay. Next, moving on, we have analog I/O modules. Analog I/O modules. So these are the two types of analog I/O modules that we come across. One is called as the sensor supplied power. Another one is called as the module supplied power. Now, if you look into these figures, in the sensor supplied power, this is a sensor, input sensor, and this input sensor is applied with the some power supply. It is applied with some power supply to energize this sensor. Okay, so that is the sensor supplied with the power supply. Then this sensor is able to supply, or it is able to sense the current between minus 20 milliampere to plus 20 milliampere. It is able to sense the current between minus 20 milliampere to plus 20 milliampere. In this particular application, it is sensing the current between 4 to 20 milliampere. The sensor is sensing that much amount of current, and then from the positive terminal, you can see here, it is sending the current in this direction. See the direction of the arrow mark. Okay, it is sending the current here. This is your input module strip or the input channels. Then from there, it is connected to your input circuitry, input circuit of the input module, right? Then once it is sending the signal to the input module circuit, this is your input module circuit, then the output, whatever you're getting from that, this is the input module circuit only, it is not the output of your PLC. Okay, so this is the input section only. Whatever the, after sensing the current sent to this circuit, input circuit, the output of that input circuit, is again sent back as the signal which is going in the other direction. You can see the arrow mark here is going in the opposite direction, right? And then to the negative terminal of the sensor, Okay, so this output of this input circuitry, whatever is sent back, it is called as the feedback signal. This output signal from this input circuitry, whatever is sent back, it is called as the feedback signal. This feedback signal or the output of the circuitry is sent back again to the input, right? And at the input side, what happens is it takes the difference between the input, whatever is first applied, and the feedback signal. Okay, say that the input voltage is, say, some 5.3 volts when it is applied at the beginning. Okay, and the feedback when you are applying, say, it is 5 volts. Now what is the difference? 5.3 minus 5 volts, it is 0.3 volts, correct? It is 0.3 volts. So this difference will be applied again to the circuit, to the input strip, to the input circuitry, and whatever the difference, because of that, the accuracy of the output, whatever we are getting from this input circuit, is increased. That is the reason of this feedback circuit. This is called as the feedback loop or a feedback circuit. What is the meaning of feedback circuit? The sensor first senses the input signal from the field device. Whatever is the input signal, that 4 to 20 milliampere in that range, it sends that to the input module strip, that is to the input circuitry. The output of that input circuitry is again applied back as some input to the main input. Okay, Now the difference between the main input, whatever is first applied input, and the feedback, that is the output, whatever you are getting from this input circuitry, the difference between those two signals is taken, and then it operates again and sees that whatever is the output that is obtained from this input section, from this input circuit, is increased, the accuracy is increased. Okay, and such a loop is called as the feedback loop. Right. Then here, when you are seeing into the second portion, the second diagram, here instead of applying the power supply to the sensor, the power supply is applied to the input module. That is the only difference. Right. Other functioning and all, everything is same, except that in the power supply, here it is applied to the sensor, here the power supply is applied to the input, that is to the input strip, input module strip. Correct. Again, the same input is applied in the range of 420 milliampere to this circuit, input circuitry. Feedback signal or the output from this input circuitry is applied back to the main input, that is where they are getting the input from the sensor. Then the difference between these two is taken and again applied to this circuit so as to increase the accuracy of the output. Accuracy means what? The error is reduced. Error is reduced. So that we say as the more accurate or high accurate output. Okay, high accurate signal that we are getting from this input circuitry. It can be increased by applying the feedback signal by using this feedback, this form of circuit, which is called as the feedback circuit or the loop circuit. Okay. So once the accuracy or the precision is increased, what will happen? You will be getting a very good signal at this input circuit of the PLC. Okay. Next one is the figure which indicates the analog I/O modules in a typical PLC control system. Here I have shown a PLC control system. This is a PLC control system. Just now I explained the concept of the control system. It is nothing but applying the feedback signal, right? So once the input is sensed, it is sent to the PLC, then we are getting the output. Again, that output is controlling the mechanism or the process, right? And such a system is called as the control system. Let us see what is this control system here. Now this is a valve. This is a valve here. It is allowing the liquid to flow in a storage. It is allowing the liquid to flow in a storage. The liquid is getting filled into this storage. We have to measure the level of the liquid in this storage. If we want to measure the level of the liquid or the fluid in this storage, we should have a sensor, is it not? We should have a sensor to sense that level. Okay, and when we discussed about this in our previous class, we use a level transmitter there, analog I/O module. Use the level transmitter, and that level transmitter sensed the level. Okay, so some type of level sensor has to be used. Here we are using some level sensor to sense the level of the signal, and once it senses that level, it converts the level, the height of the liquid in the tank, to the suitable voltage, and then it sends to the PLC. This is our analog input. It sends to the PLC. What this PLC will do, based on the ladder diagram, based on the program that is stored in the memory of the PLC, it will try to get some output. It will try to produce some output based on the program, based on our requirement, how we have written the program and how we have stored in the memory of the PLC. Based on the user requirement, it is producing some output. That output that is the analog output what we are getting from the PLC. That analog output will control this position of the valve. If we want to open this valve 100%, we can do that by writing the ladder diagram, ladder rung in the PLC. We can see that the control valve is opened 100%. Once it is opened 100%, the liquid flows into the tank, right, and it fills to a required level. Once the set point is reached, set point, predefined limit, once the set point or the set value is reached, then what we have to do next, we have to just maintain that level. Once it reaches a set point value, the fixed or the reference value, we have to maintain it, is it not? So we have to maintain it means, again we are sending the level sensor signal to the analog input. That is our analog input to the PLC. And again, this PLC, based on the ladder program, it provides certain analog output voltage, and that operates the valve. Position of the valve is adjusted again, now just to maintain the level or the height of the level in the tank. Okay, so this is called as a complete control system. Now the control system, which is including the feedback loop and the input loop. So this is our input signal. We are applying to the PLC. We are getting the feedback signal or the analog output voltage. We are applying it to the valve, and we are controlling the flow of the liquid in the tank, or the flow of the liquid in the storage of the liquid in the tank. Okay. It illustrates the use of analog I/O modules in a typical PLC control system. In this application, the PLC controls the amount of liquid or the fluid in a tank by adjusting the percentage of the valve opening. Analog output from PLC is controlling the flow by controlling the amount of valve opening. Depending upon how much amount of valve is opened, that decides the amount of liquid that will be flowing into the tank. If you open the valve less, then the amount of liquid that is flowing will be less, because the opening, the slot, okay, that will be less. If the opening is more, then the amount of liquid, the quantity of the liquid flowing into the tank or that is filled into the tank will be more. Proportionately, it is changing based on the position of the valve, based on the position of the valve. This valve is initially open 100%. As the liquid fills in the tank and approaches the preset value or the set point value, the processor modifies the output and adjusts the valve such that it maintains the set point. Okay, it maintains the set point. Next, we'll move on to certain a unique type of I/O modules which are meant to perform certain special applications. These are the I/O modules, input output modules, which are meant to perform certain different type or unique type or special type of applications. Many different types of I/O modules have been developed to meet certain special requirements or special needs. These are as follows. First one, the high speed counter module. High speed counter module. The name itself indicates high speed counter module. In one of the class, I told you all what is meant by a counter. Counter is the one which counts either in the upward direction or in the downward direction. If you want to count in the upward direction, I have given the example of a timer or the clock, right? The clock always points or it moves in the upward direction, say from 1 to 2 p.m. or 2 to 5 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m. like that. It moves in the upward direction. That is called as up counting. Now, the example for down counting, I give an example of a game that is being played. For example, if you are moving the ball from one container to another container, if the game is being played and you want to know how many balls have been moved from one container to another container in say 30 seconds, right? You are measuring, that is countdown, right? So it counts 30, 29 and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right? Within that span of time, how many balls have been moved from one container to another container, correct? So that gives the time span, that is down counter. Okay, now in this counter, what is done is the number of pulses are counted. Number of pulses are counted. That is a signal, digital signal 0 to 1. Those pulses are counted. Now, how they are counted? Now, if you want to count them, we are using a setup called as optical encoder. This is a particular setup called as optical encoder, a special type of application in which the light is emitted and it is made to fall on a disc. It is made to fall on a disc, a circular disc. And this circular disc has many slots or openings. When the light falls only on that particular slot of the disc or on that opening of the disc, it passes to the other end. It passes to the other end. Otherwise, if it falls on the opaque portion, if it falls on the, that is solid portion, okay, then there is no passing, there is no question, there is no passing of light from the left side to the right side or from the one side to other side. So like this, based on the amount of light passing on that rotating disc, the disc is made to rotate, the light falls, whenever the light falls on the slot or the opening, it passes to the other end, okay, then if it is not falling on that slot, it is not passed to the other end. Like this, there are many openings on that disk. Based on the number of openings and based on the light, that light intensity is measured at the other end. That is the application. Based on the number of pulses, light pulses we are getting at the other end, we are able to measure the intensity of the light, or we are able to measure the speed of rotation of that disk. These are few of the applications where such counter modules are being made use of. And in applications where there are sensors, right, switches, there are switches and which are operating at high speeds, okay, and you want to count what is the rate at which the switching is taking place, how many switches are operating, or how many switching operations, on and off operations have taken place. If you want to measure such applications, such say parameters, then you will be using this high speed counter module. Now this high speed counter module has certain electronics, and this electronic circuit is different from the processor. The electronic circuit is meant only to perform the counting operation. It is different from the processor. Processor is different, CPU is different. But this electronic circuit, which is there on the circuitry, the board, PCB, that is meant to perform only the counting operation. Okay, so it is both are operating in parallel. The processor and the electronic circuit for counting operation, both are operating in parallel. Okay, the count rate is 0 to 100 kilohertz. 0 to 100 kilohertz is the rate at which the counting operation is taking place. Now 100 kilohertz means 100 into 10 raised to 3 cycles per second, or 100,000 cycles per second. Am I right? Now 100,000 cycles per second means approximately how many pulses it can count per second? Can you just imagine? 100,000 pulses per second. It can count at the rate, at the speed of 100,000 pulses per second. Okay, that is speed at which the counting operation is taking place. A huge speed, 100,000 pulses per second. Okay, are you following here, students? Yes, are you following here, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any difficulty up till now? Yes,
No, sir.
please. Okay, fine. Next, second type of special IO module is a thumb wheel module. Now this thumb wheel module is the one which has say a certain decimal values, or the numbers being displayed on it. There are certain numbers being displayed on this thumb wheel module, right? It is having a switch called as a thumb wheel switch, right? And this thumb wheel switch is nothing but it's a type of rotary switch, wherein when you rotate that, the numbers are displayed on the display. The numbers are displayed on the display, and that number, say suppose 2 is displayed, the number second number, the number 2, that is will be converted into a binary value, or it is converted into a different type of hexadecimal value. Okay, binary value of 2 is 0 1 0. You have studied in your electronics the decimal value, binary value in your first year, correct? So the decimal value, whatever is being displayed on that display, that is converted into some other type of system. So binary system, hexadecimal system. Okay, hexadecimal system is the one in which there is the digits from 0 to 9 and next digits are from A to F. Okay, 0 to 9, 0 1 2 up 3 4 up till 9 it counts. Then after 9, next the letter or the digit that comes is A B C D E F. Okay, so it is from 0 to 15. The range is from 0 to 15, and hence it is called as hexadecimal. Okay, so such is the conversion taking place. Now this in thumb wheel switches, the importance of this thumb wheel switches is that they are used to feed the information to the PLC, and depending upon the control program, the PLC controls the particular application. Based on the program that is stored in the PLC, it controls the particular application with the help of these thumb wheel switches. Okay, so these thumb wheel switches are meant for feeding the information to the PLC to be used in the control program. Whatever is the information required for the PLC program, That information is provided by these thumb wheel switches. The next one is TTL module. TTL stands for transistor transistor logic. Full form of TTL is transistor transistor logic. This TTL level is in between 0 to 5 volts. It is in between 0 to 5 volts. It has low level and high level. High level means it is from 0 to 0.8 volts. If the range of the voltage is 0 to 0.8 volts, then it is called as low level or 0. If the range of the voltage is in between 2 to 5 volts, then it is called as high level or 1. Okay, that is a digit 1. If it is low level, then it is binary 0, a low level. If it is in between 2 to 5 volts, it is high level or the digit 1, high representation, low representation, high representation. Now, using these TTL signals, the signals are transmitted between the transmitter and the receiver. The TTL signals or these voltage levels are used between 0 to 5 volts excuse me, to send the signals between the transmitter and the receiver. This module allows devices that produce TTL level signals to communicate with the PLC's processor. Using this module, the TTL signals, that is the signals which are in the range of 0 to 5 volts, are transmitted to the PLC processor, and based on the signal received, the TTL signal received, it adjusts itself, the program adjusts itself and executes and controls a particular application. Then encoder counter module. This encoder is a module. Just now I gave the example of optical encoder wherein it counts. One more application I will highlight here, the application of the capping of a bottle. Okay, I had sent the video also on this, right? Capping of the bottle filling, capping of that. Okay, now here what is done is there is an encoder placed. There is an encoder setup in the complete cycle of this capping of the bottle, right? Here, whenever the bottle comes to its particular position, there is a capping taking place. Once the capping taking place, the encoder operates, or there's a pulse that is produced. Once it passes to that particular arrangement or to that particular setup, this pulse is converting, this pulse is applied to the encoder setup and it is made to count. For example, when one bottle is being capped, a capping takes place on one bottle, there is indicating that one bottle has been capped, the counting taking place, up counter it is. Next, a second bottle comes, there is a capping taking place, a pulse is being produced, right? A digital signal is produced, and then again it counts 2. Then the third bottle comes, 3, like this, the counting taking place, and like this it is able to measure the number of bottles that have been capped. Now, how many number of bottles capping has been taking place? The cap has been placed on the bottles, that can be counted by this encoder counter module. It not only stores this information, and it stores this information so that it can be used for future applications also, for future use also. The next type of special IO module is basic or ASCII module. The basic or ASCII module is the one which stores certain programs such as basic program or C programs. Okay, long back there used to be programs called as basic. Okay, basic, there, like how there is a C program. Okay, then how there is C++ and other programs. At around just 15-20 years back, there used to be these basic program language, just like C language and C++ language, right? And these programs are stored. Nowadays, advanced programs are being used for PLCs. Not only that, apart from this basic and C programs, other programs are also being used. These programs are stored into the memory of the PLC, right? Information is sent to the PLC. These programs, they execute, basic and the C language programs, they execute and see that they run a particular application, or they are meant to see that a particular application is being monitored, it is being supervised in a particular way that is required by the user. These programs are independent of the PLC processor and provide easy and fast interface between the remote devices or the foreign devices and the PLC processor. There is a PLC processor, right? And this PLC processor controls the device which is far away, which is at a certain other place. It is a remote device. So like this, there is a particular way of communication between the program that is stored in the memory, the basic and the C language programs that is stored in the PLC memory, and the remote devices or the devices which are at a far distance. There is a communication link between all these, a communication link which is between all these, so that a particular application is being run, it is monitored and supervised. Few of the applications are being highlighted here, such as barcode readers. You have seen the barcode readers in the malls, right? In Big Bazaar, right? You have visited, you have seen the barcode scanner, correct? Now these barcode scanner, what it does, it scans the barcode on that particular item, and once it scans that particular barcode of that particular item, that barcode is unique for that item. That barcode is unique, it is meant for only that item. If you take some different item, its barcode is different. Now once that barcode scanner, it scans that barcode is compared with the code or the barcode which is stored in the database, of that system, of that computer system, or of that particular company, right? And then once the comparison says that it is same, then for that barcode, what is the amount, or what is the price, for that particular item? So that is being shown on your screen, on the display screen. Okay, like this, for different items, that there will be different prices. So this is how the comparison is done, and based on the comparison, once it matches that which is stored in the computer system or which is stored in that company's profile, once it matches that, only then that say rate of that item will be highlighted. If it is not matching, then it cannot give the rate of that item. Then other applications include robots, printers, right, display devices. These are some of the other applications wherein the programs such as basic C program or other advanced programs are being used to monitor the operation of the robots, or it may be to operate the printers or display devices or barcode scanners. Stepper motor module. Stepper motor module, it provides train of pulses, or it provides pulse trains to control the stepper motor. This is a module which is providing certain pulse trains, train of pulses. What is a stepper motor? It is a device which converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. That is a motor, we know that, correct? Now this is stepper motor. If you are applying one pulse, it rotates by one step. If you are applying second digital pulse or second digital signal, it rotates by another step. That is why it is called as stepper motor. It rotates in steps, Now this stepper motor is being controlled by, or it is being monitored, it is being controlled by the stepper motor module, so that the position of the stepper motor can be adjusted. We can adjust the position, or we can vary its rotation by adjusting the pulses that are coming from this stepper motor module. The commands for the module are determined by the control program in the PLC. The PLC program, whatever is being stored, if we are providing the commands for the module, okay, from this program which is stored in the PLC, then that commands will send certain command, that PLC program will send certain commands. For example, if we want to rotate the motor in a clockwise direction, we have to write a program so that the stepper motor rotates in clockwise direction. If you want to rotate the motor in anti-clockwise direction, we have to write the program for that and store in the PLC memory, giving the command such saying that you rotate in anti-clockwise direction, like that.
Sir, what is pulse train?
Pulse train, yes, I will give the example. Once I had given this example, I think. Now, bogies of a train, okay, it is just like the bogies of a train. That is called as a pulses. Pulse means a digital signal, right? 0 to 1. it can be 0, then there is a, from 0 to 1 there is a transition. Okay, that's a pulse, one pulse. Okay, what is one pulse? 0 to 1, it will be 0 level, directly it will go to high level. That is one pulse. It is just not like your analog signal. Analog signal is your sine waveform. Correct. So now pulse is one single pulse means what? It is from 0 to 1 only two states. It has a 0 state and 1 state, or 0 state and 5 volts, or high state. Okay, now this pulse, like this, there are number of pulses which are coming in sequence. First pulse, then second pulse, third pulse, fourth pulse, fifth pulse, nth pulse. Okay, like this, there is a sequence of pulses. Sequence of pulse, not only a single pulse, but a collection of pulses, set of pulses, number of pulses. So such sequence of pulses is called as the pulse train. Now, based on this pulse, whatever is being applied to the stepper motor, we know that stepper motor operates on the pulses. That is, whatever the electrical pulses that we are applying, based on that, it is rotating in either clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, or it rotates with a certain speed. We can change the speed of the rotation of the stepper motor. Right, all that can be done by adjusting this train of pulses. If you are, say, providing some 8 pulses, right, 8 pulses in sequence, then the stepper motor speed may be different. Suppose if you are providing a number of pulses, say some around 25 pulses, then the speed of the rotation of the stepper motor may be different. So like this, the speed, the position of the stepper motor, all this depends on the pulses, or on the sequence of pulses, or what is called as the train of pulses. I hope my point is clear here. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. BCD output module. BCD output module, it enables a PLC to operate the devices such as 7 segmental displays. It helps the PLC to operate the devices such as 7 segmental displays. You might have seen in malls, right? There is a display which is moving the rolling the screen, what you are seeing, right? Advertisements, whatever is being displayed, the screen, the 7 segmental display screens. So that 7 segmental, it is called a 7 segment display because it has 7 segments, A, B, C, D, E, F, G segments. That is nothing but a small LEDs. Okay, there are around 7 to 8 LEDs, and that one complete 7 to 8 LEDs, that is making one character, one alphabet. That is why you are seeing able to see the different alphabets or the characters being displayed on the screen, the rolling screens, what you are seeing in the malls, correct, for advertisement purposes, is it not? So if you have visited Nucleus Mall and other malls, right, there they are displaying certain characters or the screens, is it not? Like that, we will be able to see those rolling characters or this rolling screens for advertisement purpose, mainly meant for advertisement purpose. That is, for other applications also it is used, industrial applications. So like that, that is the one of the features of this BCD output module. Next is certain special IO modules which are called as intelligent IO modules. These are called as intelligent IO modules. They are called as intelligent IO modules because they have their own microprocessor along with the PLC. There are certain special input output modules along with the PLC, right? They are operate in parallel. They can have their own microprocessor. They have their own processor or the microprocessor, which is meant for obtaining the information of the sensed signal. What is the sensed signal? How much is the voltage of the sensed signal? How much is the current value of the sensed signal, or what is the value of that signal? All that is measured by this microprocessor. It is operating in parallel with the PLC. PLC is a block. It is one block, correct? Now these special modules, they are called as intelligent input output modules because they have their own microprocessors, right, along with the PLC. They are operating in parallel with the PLC. Which are these different special IO modules? Let us see the intelligent IO modules. The first one is PID module. You might have come across this word, PID module, proportional integrative derivative module. P stands for proportional, I for integral, and D for derivative. The meaning of proportional is the output is, if it is proportional to the input, it is called as proportional. If the output is integration of the input, then it is called as integral. If the output is derivative function of the input, then it is called as derivative. Hence, we have what is called as the PID modules, proportional, integral, derivative. That is, the output is certain proportional to the input also, it is certain integral function of the input also, and it is certain derivative function of the input module also. So, such of the modules are called as proportional, integral, derivative modules. If we want to operate these PID modules, we have to write the algorithms. Just like how you are writing the algorithms, right? The programs for controlling the robot arms, right? Similarly, we have to write certain programs which are meant to perform certain mathematical operations. So these algorithms or the programs are written, they're stored into the memory, and they are seeing that this PID module operates. This PID module operates. It is mainly meant for process control applications. For process control applications to control the various parameters such as temperature, flow, level, speed, and to see that these parameters are at the specified value, at the required set point value. To see these things, to look into these parameters and monitoring these parameter levels, bringing them to the required set point value, this PID module is employed. It is an algorithm, a complex program based on mathematical calculations. It allows process control to take place outside the CPU. It is the arrangement which prevents the CPU from being burdened with complex calculations. The meaning of this is the PID module, it is a different module. CPU is a different module. Now, if the CPU is taking the function of the PID module, what happens? Right? Its function increases. Okay, its function increases. There is a certain burden on the CPU. Now, instead of this, if the PID module does its own function and CPU is a different module, it is doing its own function, then the burden on the CPU will be reduced. Burden on the CPU will be reduced. That is the meaning of this point here. Basic function of the module is to provide control action to maintain process variables such as temperature, level, speed, flow within the set limits, or what is called as the within the specified set point value. Motion and position control modules. This motion and position control modules are used to control the motion or to control the position, just like I give the example of the stepper motor and the servo motors. There are certain motors called as servo motors, which are based on the feedback mechanism. So there is a feedback mechanism. Based on the feedback mechanism, it is trying to control the position or the angle, right, or the velocity or the acceleration. All that, those parameters can be controlled using this servo type of motor, servo motors. Okay, so this position and motion control modules are used in high speed machining and packaging operations. Wherever high speed operations are involved, packaging applications are involved, and where high accuracy is needed, in such applications the motion and position control modules are being used. These are intelligent position and motion control modules which permit PLCs to control stepper and servo motors. Next is the communication modules. There are certain modules which are meant to provide a communication, a point-to-point link between the PLC and the processor, or from one PLC to another PLC. So such communication can be established using these communication modules. So these act like the intermediate for the establishing the communication between one PLC to another PLC, or from one PLC to another processor, right? These are the intermediate links or the intermediate modules. Serial communication modules are used to establish point-to-point connections with other intelligent devices. What is the necessary here for point-to-point communication or communication modules? Mainly meant for exchange of data. They are meant for exchanging the data between one PLC and another PLC, or it may be from one PLC to another processor, right? For exchanging the information. So these communication modules are being used. Such connections are normally established with computers, operator stations, process control systems, and other PLCs. What is an operator station? There is a particular, say, office which is meant for the operator, where he'll be sitting in that cabin, in his cabin, to operate or to control the various operations, to control the various operations or to control the various industrial parameters. That is what is called as the operator station. He will be monitoring if there is any fault occurring in the any parameters, if there is any fault occurring in the controlling aspect, in the controlling process, then that fault will be indicated by an alarm. Alarm goes, or there is certain LEDs which are highlighting the status as to whether there is any fault. The LED starts to blink, which indicates that there is any fault in the process controlling application, that will be indicated. Okay, so all that is done by the operator who is operating in his cabin at the operator station. Communication modules allow the user to connect the PLC to high-speed local networks. The PLCs are being connected to other modules, such as, say, other PLCs, or to, say, other, say, computers. PLC is connected to the high-speed local networks. Local area network, you might have heard of the term LAN networks. Okay, the LAN cabling is done in your computer lab, correct? That is, the area is less, so small area, within the small area, if the network is established, then that is called as the local area network. If there is a communication between one and, say, one from one building to another building, from one building to another building, then that is called as the wide area network. The area is more, the networking required is more. Okay, we have local area network, then wide area network. Okay, these are the different types of networking that comes for establishing the communication between the PLC to another PLC, or from one PLC to the required computer. Next, we will see some of the specifications or the ratings of the input output modules. These are called as the IO specifications or the IO ratings. These specifications, they are the certain limitations not only on the IO modules but also on the field equipment that it can operate. They are the limitations. The meaning of limitations is, whenever it is a specification, it is not only meant for the input output module, it is also meant for the field equipment also. That is the meaning of the limitation that is being set by the specifications on the IO modules and also on the field equipment. There is a term called here as hot swappable IO modules. Are you following here, students? Any questions up till now? Yes, please. Any questions up till now?
So the limitations, what it is exactly?
Okay, I'll come to that. Limitations means, say here it is not a disadvantage. Okay, don't take it in that way. Sometimes we use the word limitations means disadvantage. It is not that limitation. Limitation means a limit. Okay, for example, certain input output modules, they can only operate between 0 to 24 volts. There are certain input modules which can operate in the range between 0 to 230 volts maximum range, and similarly with the field equipments also. So that is a limit or the range between which they operate. It is not the term, that English meaning of limitation, disadvantage. It is not that meaning here. It is not to be taken in that way. Limitation means the limit or the range between the range of values at which the input output modules work, or the range of values at, for which the field devices work. That is called as a limit here. Limit, it is the limit but not the disadvantage. I hope it is clear to you now. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a term here called as hot swappable IO modules. The meaning of hot swappable IO modules is, these hot swappable IO modules are the ones which can be operated whenever the PLC modules are online. Whenever the PLC modules are being operated, right? Whenever it is in on condition, that time the IO modules can be changed. That time we can change certain IO modules. We can replace, we can perform certain changing operations. That is called as hot swappable IO modules. Swapping, it is swapping the IO modules, or it is exchanging or, say, changing the IO modules whenever they are in on state, whenever the PLC is in working condition. It is in on state, when the power is in on state. Okay. The following is a list of some typical manufacturers' I/O specifications. These are the specifications provided by the manufacturer. What are these specifications? Let us go through. Typical discrete I/O module specifications. First is the specification that I will be highlighting here for discrete I/O modules. That is for digital I/O modules. First one is nominal input voltage. The meaning of nominal input voltage is how much power supply voltage the user can apply to the input module. How much power supply the user can apply to the input module. What is the range? That is called as the nominal input voltage. It is a discrete input module voltage which specifies the magnitude, that is say 5 volts or 24 volts or 230 volts, and the type, whether it is a AC voltage or a DC voltage of user supplied voltage that the module is designed to accept. How much amount of the voltage the input module can accept from the power supply or from the user, that is called as the nominal input voltage. Simple. Okay, nominal input voltage. Input threshold voltages. Threshold voltage, the meaning of threshold is the minimum voltage. How much in minimum voltage we can apply at the input. How much minimum voltage we can apply at the input. That is called as the input threshold voltage. This is a discrete input module specification which specifies two values, that is minimum on state voltage, how much minimum voltage we require to turn on the device, turn on the module, IO module, and what is the minimum voltage at which a logic 1 is recognized as on, or a maximum off state voltage. How much maximum voltage when we are applying, the device or the module will go into off state. Here we are talking only about the IO modules, remember. Okay. Now, how much is the minimum voltage that is required to turn on the input output module, right? That is to make it go to one state, because here it is a discrete module. I am explaining about the IO specifications of the discrete module, digital module, correct? Then how much is the maximum voltage that I can apply so that the IO module goes into off state or zero state, digital zero, correct? So these are the two possibilities here. One is on state, how much is the minimum voltage that we have to apply, then the off state, how much maximum voltage we have to apply to bring it to the off state. These are called as threshold voltages. The meaning of threshold is minimal, how much we can apply, input threshold voltages. Next is nominal current per input. This value is the minimum input current. Again, it's a minimum input current only that the discrete input devices require to drive the or to operate the input circuit. How much amount of the minimum current that is needed by the input current that the discrete input devices are capable of applying it to the input circuit. Okay, the input devices are there, the field devices. So how much amount of these the input devices, okay, they are able to sense and send it to the input circuit. The field devices, how much the IO modules here or the field devices, how much amount of the current they are able to sense and send them to the input circuit. Okay, the minimum current, that is called as the nominal current per input. Next, ambient temperature rating. Any idea what is meant by ambient, students? What is the meaning of ambient? Any idea? Ambient means what? Have you heard of the term ambient? Yes. Have you come across this word ambient here? Yes, please. Anybody?
Sir, ambient air we have come across.
Pardon, I didn't get your point.
Ambient air.
Yes, please. Please repeat. You are right. You are telling something about the air. Yes. Correct. You are right. See, it is the
Ambient air, sir.
Yes, correct. Very good. It's the surrounding air conditions. Okay. Here they are mentioning the temperature rating. That means the surrounding air, how much temperature, minimal temperature it should have, so that that does not affect our IO module. This value specifies what the maximum temperature of the air surrounding the IO module should be for best operating conditions. How much should be the temperature of the surrounding air so that it does not affect or it does not damage the IO modules. That is called as the ambient temperature rating. Input on or off delay. This is also called as a response time. The response time here is this value gives the maximum duration required by input module circuit to recognize the field device. Okay, how much time is required for the input modules to identify the on state or off state of the field devices? That is called as input on or off delay. How much time is required by the input modules to identify whether the field device is in on state or in off state? That is the response time. This is called as input on or off delay. The typical value of this input delay is 9 to 25 milliseconds. That means for the input module to recognize the on state or off state of the field devices, the time required is just 9 to 25 milliseconds. That is the response time. Output voltage. It is the AC or DC value. It specifies the magnitude, right? Either it is 5 volts or 115 volts or 230 volts, and the type AC or DC voltage of the user supplied voltage at which a discrete output module is designed to operate. Okay, that means again it's a power supply voltage only, how much it is required to power the output module. Whether we require a voltage of 5 volts or 115 volts or 230 volts, or it is a AC voltage or a DC voltage, how much we have to apply user voltage or the power supply voltage for the output module to operate satisfactorily. That is called as the output voltage. Next, output current. It is also called as maximum continuous current or maximum load current. Output current, it is also called as maximum continuous current or maximum load current. That means whenever there is a load being connected, how much output current it can withstand. What is the maximum value of output current when the load is being connected? When the load is connected to the say the output module, what is the current that it can withstand? How much current, maximum current it can withstand safely? Okay, these values specify the maximum current at a single output and the module as a whole can safely carry under load. Whenever the load is being connected, how much maximum value or the output current value that the output module can withstand, how much it can carry the maximum value safely without getting affected, without getting damaged, that is called as the output current. Inrush current. This is a current which is called as surge current. Inrush current is also called as surge current. This surge current is occurring whenever the AC or the DC output circuit tries to energize certain loads. Okay, now these loads, as the technology has advanced, what has happened is in the load the impedance that is maintained is less, so that it can sense the maximum value of current. So because of this, what is happening is when the resistance is less, according to the Ohm's law, V is equal to IR or I is equal to V by R. When resistance is less, the current will be more. So suddenly there will be a maximum current flowing for certain microseconds or for certain milliseconds, for certain amount of time, starting time. That is called as the inrush current or the surge current. Inrush current or the surge current, it is momentarily, it is for a short span of time. Okay, now this AC or DC output encounters when energizing the inductive loads or the capacitive loads. Sorry, when energizing the inductive loads or the capacitive loads. Now the example of the inductive load is your fan, electric fan. Okay, that is one example. Then say the capacitive load is capacitive load banks, or say so capacitive load banks that is being used. Okay, or your underground cables, right, which are buried into the ground. So they are the examples of the capacitive loads. Okay, short circuit protection. Whenever, how this short circuit occurs, students? Whenever there is a short between positive and negative terminal, okay, there is a short circuit which occurs. It is called a short circuit. A high current flows because of the shorting between positive and negative terminal of the IO modules. Now, for giving protection for this short circuit, what we should have? We should have certain protective devices. And as I told in the last class, one such protective device is the fuse. Is it not? Now, this fuse is used as the protective device to provide the required protection for the short circuit. Short circuit protection is provided for the AC and DC output modules by the fuses or some other current limiting circuits. There may be some circuits which may be used so that high impedance circuit or some other type of circuit which provides required short circuit protection. Leakage current. The leakage current is the current which flows, okay, after the output has been turned off. Now you have turned off the output module, but still there is certain current flowing. So this is called as the leakage current. This leakage current is formed because of the unwanted path that is being established. Because of the unwanted path that is being set up, the leakage current flows. There may be a path between, say, the body, the chassis and the power supply. Okay, some path may be formed like this. Okay, now this is called as the leakage current, which is formed because of the unwanted paths that are being set up apart from the normal circuit. Apart from the normal circuit, there may be some unwanted path that is formed for the conduction of the current, and because of that unwanted path, small currents flow, that is called as the leakage currents. Electrical isolation. What was the example that I had given in the last class for electrical isolation? Which module we use there for electrical isolation? Yes, which module we have used there for electrical isolation in our last class? Do you remember that? For electrical isolation, which is a module, which is the block that we have used, the circuitry, the circuit that we have used? Can you recollect from the last class? Yes, please. Can anybody recollect? Optical isolator, optocoupler. Is it not? Optocoupler we used when we were discussing about the analog input module, analog output module, how it works, what is a circuit. There we discussed about the optocoupler, correct, or the optical isolator circuit. Now this optical isolator circuit, it isolates or separates the, that is the PLC, it separates the PLC from the PLC circuit from the input circuit. On one side there is a power supply circuit, on another side there is a logic circuit or the PLC circuit. The separation between the power supply circuit and the PLC circuit is provided by this optical coupler or the optocoupler. Points per module. Points per module is how many number of field devices can be connected to the IO modules. Maximum how many we can connect. It is based on the number of points per module. For digital, we are using the term called as points per module. For analog module, we use the term called as channels per module. That is the difference. The idea is same. The definition is same. That is the number of field devices that are connected to the IO modules. For discrete, if it is a discrete IO modules, then the term that is used or the specification that is used is points per module. If it is the analog type of module, IO module, then there we are using a term called as channels per module. This defines the number of field inputs or outputs that can be connected to a single module. For discrete module, we can connect 8 field devices or 16 or 32 circuits or field devices. There are certain modules wherein we can connect just only 2 or 4 field devices. Such type of IO modules are called low end controllers. Low end controllers means on just we can connect hardly 2 to 4 field devices. And there are certain input output modules wherein we can connect from 32 to 64 input that is field devices to the IO modules. Such of the IO modules are called high density IO modules. High density IO modules. Any questions up till here, students? Yes, please. Any questions? Any difficulty in understanding? Yes, students. Any difficulty in understanding? Yes, please. Following, right? Yes, students. Are you following here, students? Yes. Students, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Are you following? Any difficulty here? Yes, please. Any problem in understanding? Students,
No,
any
sir.
problem? Okay, fine. Good. Next, backplane current draw. In the previous class, I explained that from the power supply module, there is a current that is sent to the backplane, the rack of the module, PLC module, and from the backplane, it is sent to the required IO module. Right? That is what we call as the backplane current. It is just a current that is coming from the backplane, the rack system, the chassis and the rack system, what we are using. From there, the current, whatever is flowing into the IO module, that is called as the backplane current. Next, we will see analog IO module specifications, analog input output module specifications. The first term, channels per module. Again, the same thing, the number of field devices that can be connected to the input output modules. How many maximum field devices we can connect to that particular input output module, that is called as the number of channels per module. Analog modules may be single ended or differential. Single ended means there is a single channel or the single circuit which we have connected to single field device and one common connection. This is called a single ended. Now, if you are for a single field device, if you are using two, that is one positive terminal and one negative terminal for the channel, then it is called as differential connection. Single ended means we use only one positive and one common. Right? Then for differential connection, what we are doing, one positive terminal and one negative terminal for a single channel. That is what we are calling as the differential connection. Analog modules may allow for either single-ended or differential connection. Single-ended connections use a single ground terminal for all channels for group of channels of the channel. So these are the voltage or current signal ranges that an input module is designed to accept. How much is the voltage or the current signal range that the input module can accept? That is called as the input current or voltage range for that particular input module. If we want to check how much we can send to that input module, this is decided by the field device. Am I right? Field device, if you are providing certain, say, current or the voltage from the field device, if that matches with the specification of that input module, then we can send that signal from the field device to the input module. Suppose if there is any mismatch between the field current and the current that is accepted specification of the input module, then what will happen? We cannot send the current from the field device to the input module. So that care has to be taken. Output current or voltage range. This is a specification which defines output, that is a current or voltage signal that a particular analog module is designed to output. If there is a certain analog output module, here we are talking about the analog type of IO modules. If there is a certain analog output module, how much maximum current it can send to the field device, that is called as the output current or the voltage range. Output current, if it is sending the current, then it is called as current range. If it is sending certain voltage signal to the field device, it is called as voltage range. Input protection, the same thing. If there is any excess voltage or excess current in the input side of the circuit, then there should be certain protection for the more current or the excess current. To provide protection against that excess current, we have to use certain protective devices such as fuse or some other current limiting devices. They have to be used so that it is protected from the exceeding current or the excess current. Resolution is the starting point of the today's class. Resolution is the smallest change in the input signal that can be detected by that input output module. Input impedance and capacitance. Input impedance is nothing but the input resistance or the impedance from the input terminal of that IO module to the ground. From the input terminal of the IO module to the ground, how much is the resistance or the impedance, that is called as input impedance. And if we are checking how much is the capacitance between the input terminal and the ground, the capacitance, okay, it is in terms of picofarads. Picofarad means 10 raised to how much? Any idea? Picofarad? Yes, please. Any idea what is meant by picofarad? Capacitance? 10 raised to how much? Minus 12. Okay. You are right. It is minus 12, not plus 12. Okay. 10 raised to minus 12 is picofarad. Mega ohm 10 raised to 6. 10 raised to 6. Okay. So that is the range of the input impedance and the capacitance for the IO modules. Common mode rejection. This common mode rejection is required because there is noise signal present in the IO modules. This noise signal may be due to electromagnetic interference we discussed in the previous class, because of the electromagnetic interference that is taking place from the nearby circuit. From the nearby circuit, whatever is the that is the electromagnetic interference that is taking place, because of that what is happening, the noise is being produced because of the magnetic effect of the nearby circuit. There is a current formed or the current flowing, the noise signal that is flowing in the existing circuit. That is called as the electromagnetic noise or the electromagnetic interference. And the ground loops. Ground loops are formed. Now there are 2 points in a circuit. If those 2 points in the circuit are having the same ground reference, then there will be no noise. Try to understand here. There are 2 points in a circuit which are having the same ground reference. Ground is same for both the points. If the ground point changes, for one among these 2 points, then it results in a 2 different ground loops. Ground loop is nothing but from your input to the output, then through ground it comes back to the input. That is your loop. Correct. Now, if in that ground loop, if there are 2 points which are at the same ground reference, this ground reference is same for both the points. But what may happen sometimes is, due to certain effects caused, what may happen, the ground reference may change. Suppose for first point, if the ground reference remains the same, for the second point on the circuit, if the ground reference changes, then what will be happening is 2 different circuits will be formed. And because of those 2 ground circuits or ground loops, 2 different circuits formed, some noise signal or unwanted signal flows in the existing circuit. These are the different types of noise signals. To eliminate or to decrease these noise signals, okay, what is done is common mode rejection technique is used. Common mode rejection technique is where we are employing differential inputs. Differential inputs means, for example, if we are using 2 parallel wires, okay, and in those 2 parallel wires, right, the noise whatever is being picked up is equal. One we are connecting it to positive, another we are connecting to negative. If the noise is equal, what will happen? Due to differential signaling, positive plus, suppose say noise is 5 millivolts. 5 millivolts minus 5 millivolts, what will happen? 5 minus 5, it will be 0. Yes or no? 5 millivolts minus 5 millivolts, it will be 0. So both will become cancelled. One we are applying is to positive terminal, another we are applying it to negative terminal. Whatever noise signal is applied to positive terminal minus the noise signal applied to negative terminal, that will get cancelled out if they are equal in magnitude and we are applying it to positive and negative terminals, or they will get reduced because there is a difference. Suppose one is at say 5 millivolt, another one is 3 millivolts. 5 minus 3, it will be 2 millivolts. The noise is getting reduced. Correct. That is called as differential signaling. It is differential inputs and refers to analog module's ability to prevent noise from interfering with the data on a single channel and from channel to channel on the module. Noise is picked up equally in parallel wires and it is rejected because of the difference is 0. Common mode rejection is expressed in decibels. The unit of common mode rejection is decibel, dB. Clear here? Any difficulty up till here, students? So we have end up the IO specifications. Any difficulty up till here? Any questions? Any difficulties here up till here? IO specifications? Yes. Any difficulties, students?
No, sir.
Okay. Following, right? Following the concepts?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Then we'll proceed. Next topic is central processing unit. Of course, you have come across this and I had already sent a video also on this CPU central processing unit. And again, we will highlight some of the other points, additional points on the central processing unit. Let us see the block diagram. This is our CPU. This is a processor module. The power supply is being applied to the CPU, okay, and also to the memory module. This is the entire processor module. There are two portions here. One is the CPU portion, another one is the memory portion. Power supply is applied to this complete processor module, that is to the CPU and to the memory. This CPU is communicating with the communication interface, that is to the external display. If it wants to display certain values on the display devices, on say 7-segmental display, okay, or say on mobile devices, mobiles, okay, or on the laptops, on computer screens, if it wants to display certain outputs, that is done by this communication interface. Then we have the IO modules. IO modules connected to the CPU. These are say of two types, discrete IO devices and analog IO devices. Remember students, IO modules are of two types. One is analog IO module, which is having continuous analog signal. It detects, or it say meant for only analog signal, and discrete IO devices are for discrete or for digital signals. Now this is what we are seeing. This is what you are seeing here is the switch. This is your control valve. Okay, this is your potentiometer, pot, output device, and this is your motor. Okay. Now these are the input devices, and these are also the input output devices, different input output devices which are shown here. Then there is also a memory to store the programs, to store the program or to store the status of the input devices, to store the status of the output devices. A memory is needed to store the status, correct? This what you are seeing at the right is the CPU. Just like how you have the CPU of a computer, similarly we are having the CPU for the PLCs also. Let us see the difference between the two, that is CPU of a computer and CPU of the PLC. We'll come to that point. There are two types of central processing units. One is called as fixed PLC type, another one is called as plug-in type. Fixed PLC type, the CPU comes inbuilt within the PLC itself. It is fixed. You cannot remove it, you cannot replace it. Okay. There's another type called as plug-in type. Plug-in type means you can plug and play. Okay, plug and play. Just like you can remove it whenever you want, or you can insert it whenever you want into the PLC circuit, PLC module. Okay. So these are the two types of CPUs. The CPU and processor both mean the same thing. Central processing unit and processor, different manufacturers use different terms. Some manufacturers may use the term CPU, some of them use the term processor. Is it not? Like this, the CPU and the processor, they are the terms used by different manufacturers to indicate the same meaning, or to indicate the same function performed by the CPU. Processors have different speed and different memory. The CPU has different speed at which it operates. If you are using a single processor, single CPU, then the speed will be different. Correct. Now you have seen in your mobiles octa processors, quad processor. Correct. What is the meaning of that? Quad processor means 4 processors are used in parallel. computing speed is very high. The speed at which they are operating, it is very high, very fast speed. Okay. If it is octa processor, laptops or your octa processor, say your mobile phones, cell phones, then the speed is still more high because 8 processors are used or 8 CPUs are used in parallel simultaneously. The processing speed increases. Similarly, with the memory options, some may come with some GB, and if some may coming with the higher GB versions, okay, gigabyte versions. The memory will also change from one type of PLC to another type of PLCs. A processor module is divided into two sections: the CPU section and the memory section. That's what I told here. One is the CPU section, another one is the memory section. Function of the CPU section. What is the main function of the CPU section, students? Can anybody recollect function of the CPU? It is meant to read the status of the input devices or to read the status of the say output devices. Read the status of the input devices, right? And then based on the program that is stored in the PLC memory, based on the program that is stored, ladder program that is stored in the PLC memory, it takes the input from the field devices, processes that, okay, it performs certain functions on that, certain operations on that based on the requirement of the user and based on how we have written the program, correct? Now, for example, if you are writing the program for adding two numbers, that will give us the result of adding two numbers only. It cannot give us the result of subtracting two numbers, is it not? That is how you have written the program. Based on that, it will read the values from the field devices, perform certain operations, and then outputs that value to the field devices, or it controls the output field devices through the output modules, through the output module. The memory section electronically stores the PLC program along with other retrievable digital information. The function of the memory section is to store the PLC program and to store certain other information also. As I told, the memory stores the information about the input status of the input devices, whether they're in on state or off state. Similarly, the status of the output devices also, whether the output devices are in on state or off state. PLC power supply provides the necessary power, that is 5 volt DC. The power supply, it acts like a rectifier. It consists of a rectifier inside it, the PLC power supply. This power supply converts the AC signal. Suppose if you are applying 120 volts AC or 230 volts AC, it brings down that voltage to 5 volts DC. It converts from AC signal to DC signal, which is required by the PLC. The PLC that is operating here, it is at 5 volts. Remember, students, the range at which the PLC operates is at 5 volts DC, and hence we are applying the AC signal. We have to convert it into DC by using the power supply. The power supply inside it consists of a rectifier circuit, and it converts from 120 volts AC to 5 volts DC. The power supply converts 115 volts AC or 230 volts AC into the usable DC voltage required by the CPU or memory or the IO electronic circuits. There is a term called as hold up time. Hold up time is the time span or the length of time a PLC can tolerate a power loss. Suppose there is a heat dissipation that is taking place. Heat dissipation. Now, when you are using your computers or your laptops, you might have come across some heating effect on the laptops, correct? If you just touch your laptops, then you'll feel certain heat after you use certain time. Or when you are touching the CPU of your computer, after you are using for certain time, you feel certain heat. What is that? That is nothing but your power dissipation, heat dissipation. That is a heat loss or the power loss. Now, how much the PLC can tolerate a power loss? The time span for how much it can tolerate, that is called as the hold up time. The time span here is 10 milliseconds to 3 seconds. The CPU contains the similar type of microprocessor found in a personal computer. The difference between the CPU of a personal computer and the CPU of your PLC. What is the main difference? The difference is that, as I told in one of the classes, in the beginning classes, the comparison between your computers and the PLCs. in the computer, whatever CPU we are using, it is meant for general purpose applications, your personal applications like home applications, office applications, college applications, educational purposes, okay, or medical applications, right? Whereas the CPU that is used for the PLC, that is meant for industrial applications, industrial oriented applications. That is the difference. So industrial control applications. The CPU executes the operating system. The function of the CPU, again the same thing. It executes the operating system, that is it manages the everything, that is right from the input section, then processing, output section. It is the doing the job of entire section. Okay. It manages memory, monitors the inputs, evaluates the user logic or the ladder program, it executes them and turns on the appropriate outputs. The CPU of a PLC system may contain more than one processor. That is called as multiprocessor. As I told, I just now give the example of 4 processors or 8 processors, quad processor or octa processor, wherein they are having more than one processor. That is called as multiprocessor. Because of this multiprocessor or multiprocessing system, what happens? The overall operating speed is improved or it is enhanced. It is increased. Associated with the processor unit will be a number of status LED indicators to provide system diagnostic information to the operator. I highlighted here that the system operator who is operating, if there is any fault in the system, that fault is sent in the form of LED blinking to the operator. Once he sees, the operator sees the LED blinking, he comes to know that there is some fault in the process control system. He'll identify that fault, he will diagnose that, just like how the doctor diagnoses a certain disease, he diagnoses that, okay, he identifies that, and then he tries to rectify the fault. There is a key switch which may be provided that allows you to select one of the following 3 modes of operation. There is a switch that is provided which allows the user to operate the CPU in different modes: run mode or programming mode or the remote mode. Okay, the run mode means you are actually operating, the CPU is running in run mode. Programming means you are writing a program, you are downloading the program into the CPU memory, that is called as a programming mode. You are setting up everything before running your PLC, that is programming. Then remote mode means you are sending the data to some remote device, some foreign devices. Okay, that is your remote mode. Remote position places the processor in the remote mode, either in the remote run mode or remote program mode or in the remote test mode. Remote run mode or remote program mode or in the remote test mode. Okay, allows you to change the processor mode from a programmer. So this allows the user to change from one mode to another mode. Either you can use your CPU in run mode or in the program mode or in the test mode or in the test mode, that is a remote mode. Okay, remote run mode, remote program mode or in the remote test mode. It also enables online program editing. If you are connected online, you can monitor the entire status, right? If your remote device, if your IO device, field device is at a certain distance, okay, and you are connected by LAN, or there is a internet cabling, by the help of this internet cabling online program, you can monitor the status of your foreign device, of your remote device. Okay, that is possible with the help of the online program editing. What are the other functions performed by the processor? The processor performs certain other functions such as maintaining the timing, how much time is taken to complete this operation or to complete this process, what is the count, how many count. Just I gave the example of the bottle capping system. Okay, counts the number of operations, latches the information, stores the information, compares the information. For comparing of the information, can compare the information stored with some other information, and you can perform certain controlling operations. Motion control operations, to control the motion maybe of the servo motor or of the stepper motor or some other applications. And complex mathematical functions, you can perform complex mathematical functions also with the CPU or the processor of the PLC. Okay. Now, what we all have studied here, students, in today's class, we have gone through the various topics, starting from the topic on the analog I/O modules. Here, how the loops are connected. Okay, the loops, how they are connected. The feedback loop, I have highlighted here the feedback loop. There is a connection between input to output and output back to the input. The sensor supplied with the power supply and the input module supplied with the power supply. Then later on, I explained the control system, considering the example of the water filling or the liquid filling in the storage tank. This is the analog I/O module. Then various special I/O modules. We have seen the different types of input-output modules, such as high-speed counter module for counting application, thumb wheel module, okay, TTL module, which has TTL signal between 0 to 5 volts. Then encoder counter module, basic or ASCII module, which stores the basic or the C programs for controlling purpose. Stepper motor module, where I highlighted that stepper motor can be controlled using certain commands. BCD output module, which is meant for 7-segmental displays that is used in your malls or some other applications. Then intelligent IO modules, they have their own processor along with the PLC. These special IO modules or the intelligent IO modules are PID module, proportional integrated derivative module, used for process control applications to control various process parameters such as temperature, flow, level, speed, and to bring them to the required set point value. Motion and position control modules, communication modules to establish communication between one point to another point, from one CPU to another CPU, or from one PLC to another PLC, or from one PLC to one CPU. That is the communication modules. Then we have also seen the I/O specifications, the various specifications such as nominal input voltage. First we saw for the discrete I/O modules, that is nominal input voltage, input threshold voltage, nominal current per input, ambient temperature rating, input on-off delay, output voltage, output current or the maximum continuous current or the maximum load current, inrush current or surge current, short circuit protection, leakage current, electrical isolation, points per module, right? And then for the backplane current, and then for the analog I/O module, the specifications are channels per module, okay, input current or voltage ranges, output current or voltage range, input protection, resolution, input impedance and capacitance, common mode rejection. Then we later on discussed about the central processing unit. That is a block diagram, and we have discussed various functions of the central processing unit, including the functions of the power supply, okay, then memory, communication interface, and the I/O modules. In examination, the questions may be asked on these. That is, the question may come on I/O specifications on special I/O modules. The question on the special I/O modules are: explain the various types of special I/O modules used in PLCs. That may be one possible question in the examination. Then another type of question that may arise in the examination is: write the I/O specifications of the PLCs, or write down the explain the I/O specifications of the PLCs. You have to write for both discrete as well as for analog. Both you have to cover, okay, for the I/O specifications. The next question on CPU, one of the important topic, CPU central processing unit. With the block diagram, explain the CPU of the PLC, or with the block diagram, explain the central processing unit of the PLC. These are the various possible questions that may arise in the examination on these topics that we have covered today. Okay. Any questions here, students? Any questions here on today's topics? Yes, please. Any questions, students?
No, sir.
Okay. Praveen Helvi, any question? Praveen,
No, sir.
understood today's topics, Praveen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any difficulty, Praveen? Any difficulty? Praveen?
No, sir. I just understood.
Understood, no? Any questions if you're having, you can ask. Anything not understood, any doubts? Hmm? Praveen?
No, sir. Understood, sir.
Understood. Good. Okay. Sohail? 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 Sohail is there?
Yes, sir.
Sohail understood the today's concepts.
Yes, sir.
Any problem in understanding?
No, sir.
Okay. Fine. Chetan Patil? Chetan?
Yes, sir.
Any difficulty here in today's discussion? Chetan?
Sir. No, sir.
Clear with the points, what all we discussed today?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Nemani Patil? Nemani Patil? Nemani Patil is here. Nathaniel Saldhana? Nathaniel Saldhana?
Yes, sir.
Any difficulty, Nathaniel Saldhana?
No, sir. Understood.
Okay. Fine, fine. Mudabbira Jagirdar? Mudabbira Jagirdar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any problem, Mudabbira?
No, sir.
Mudabbira? Understanding why you are following whatever I'm explaining here?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Hampannawar? Manohar Hampannawar? Hampannawar is here? Manohar Hampannawar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any problem, Manohar?
Sir, no, sir. Not so far.
Okay, fine. Good.
Sir, if it's possible, you can send some other reference to.
Sure, sure. I'll send. Yes, please. Sure, sure. I'll send it. Today I'll WhatsApp you all. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I was sending some, there was some difficulty in sending this thing. I was sending some material. So I'll send them again. I will again send them. Okay. Fine.
Okay,
Okay.
sir, sure. Thank you.
Yes. Mahesh, any problem? Mahesh? Kulkarni? Baswaraj Chinchkandi? Baswaraj?
Yes, sir.
Any problem? Baswaraj, anything not understood?
No, sir.
Today's
Nothing.
class?
Understood, sir.
Fine. Okay, fine. Okay. Then I will let you know when will be the next class. Okay. With that, we will end up the today's discussion. Thank you.